After 2 years on lockdown during the pandemic, there has been a major exodus. Millions of Americans have quit their jobs. Economists are calling it the Great Resignation. Here to talk about moving on and quitting with grace is SoFi career expert Ashley Stahl. Ashley, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we're talking nearly 48 million Americans who left their jobs voluntarily last year. What are some of the reasons?
I think that it's so important to take a look at why people are leaving. And, number one, there's rapid quitting, that had started before the pandemic. We had a majority of the workforce that was disengaged in their job, a majority of the workforce before the pandemic who were on the job hunt. At any given time, around 70% of the workforce was on the job hunt. And then you add an average 1 hour per workday of work throughout the pandemic. And so it makes sense that a lot of people are looking at their lives and saying, you know what? Life is too short to stay in a job that I'm not passionate about or that doesn't support my core values. Even Indeed did a survey of 1,000 people who quit their jobs since the pandemic. 92% of them responded with an answer that sounded just like that one. Now we're left with, a demand issue. Lower wage workers, they also received a lot of benefit from federal aid early in the pandemic. And higher wage earners, they left employment to seek other opportunities, such as owning their own business, which is exploding right now and is going to continue to rise.
So for those who have decided to make that jump, you have some do's and some don'ts. Let's start with the do's. First up, you say ace the exit interview. What can people expect during that process?
The exit interview is not the time to vent about why the company is not working for you, why you're unhappy. It's a time to be grateful for what you've learned. And be really neutral about why you're moving forward, whether it's your growth, whether it's a financial opportunity for you. There's nothing wrong with being straightforward about that. Just remember, the person who talks smack always looks worse than the person that they're talking about. Never be the person in an exit interview to do that. But do let them know what you learned, what you're grateful for. And remember, the world is small and it's not unusual to want to go back to an employer or to need a reference from someone. To end with elegance and class is so key. In addition to that, giving ample notice. Typically 2 weeks notice is business standard. But if you're in management or you're in the middle of a big project, 2 weeks might not be sufficient, and you need to give appropriate notice for the position that you have. Part of that time that you're spending could be about, providing status reports and assignees for projects, trying to finish unfinished projects. But if you can't, just be sure to detail where you are in all of your projects throughout that exit process.
And the next do, you say to keep a level head. What's that all about?
I think that in life, how you relate to the issue is the issue. You want to finish strong. A lot of people can feel 1 foot out the door. It's kind of like that feeling when we were younger, when it's final exams and we feel summer coming and we don't really want to put our heads down and work. But contrary to how you may feel, your mind is everything during this time. Finishing strong is your reputation. Research shows that the way that the human brain works with memory, people are going to remember how you showed up even more towards the end than you did throughout the entire experience. So really take that time to tie up loose ends, offer to train your replacement, and really just show up for the company, and having that mindset that how you finish is really just as important as how you've done the whole time.
All right, now for some don'ts. You say don't be too honest when evaluating management style. Why is that so important?
At the end of the day, there's a fine line between giving feedback and oversharing. And I think most workers haven't managed that line. And I just see that, having had my practice for so long. And over here at SoFi, we offer complimentary resources to career counselors and sessions with certified financial planners. So I hear this all the time. Usually the first pass at delivery that I'm hearing someone give isn't the best way to always share feedback on how someone could be better. You want to stay in the land of I when you're communicating, saying, I would have loved a little more of this, but here's where you were doing a great job. Here's where I did feel like I was well managed. So if you are going to give feedback, make sure that you're also clear on where they did a great job.
The land of I like the way you put that. And finally, you tell clients don't make it all about money. But what if that is the main reason they're jumping ship?
Yeah, you know what? I have to say that one of the things that companies are not doing is really taking a look at the collective mindset of the workforce right now. The truth of the matter is that job hopping is more effective for you to get a pay increase than staying and getting an annual raise. So it's incredibly important to be honest. But like I was saying, there's a fine line between addressing an issue and shining a spotlight on it. So it's okay to share that the financial opportunity is really important for you. People get that. We're all human, behind our titles, behind our email signatures. We are human beings that have families and vacations to take and savings. So there's nothing wrong with saying that you have a huge financial opportunity that you can't pass up. I think just not complaining and oversharing how hard it was for you, or ever making it personal. I think one of the worst things you can do with money in the workplace is talk about your personal needs versus your performance and your desires, especially if you're looking for a raise, or you're leaving for somewhere else. So if you're going to talk about, compensation and an opportunity that you can't turn down, also make sure to say that there's a level of responsibility you'll be taking on with that you're really excited about.
And I'd imagine as well, you might also tell people to make sure they're in good financial shape and maybe even have a good lead on a new position before making that decision to leave.
Yeah, I think, also one of the things that people don't think about is making sure that you have a job offer that's signed. Because sometimes people jump the gun when they get a verbal offer and they give notice and something falls through in the negotiations and the finalizing. So definitely look at your finances. And alternatively, some people are taking a decrease in pay for an increase in responsibility, opportunity, or they're making a career pivot. Right now is a time where everyone has reflected on who they really are and what they really want, what their core values are. And there's really two core dynamics in the workplace. There's what you're doing, what skills you're using, and how you're doing it. Meaning, given that we know 50% of people leave their jobs because they don't like their boss, what we know to be true is that how your job looks matters just as much as what your job is. And that comes down to your core values. So not everyone is taking a financial boost. Some people might be sidestepping. And in that case, there's nothing wrong with saying that you want to harness a different skill set that's very impersonal to your employer. There's nothing negative about it. And a lot of the times, a successful career is about really honing the right skill set for you.
And finding that happiness too. Sometimes the happiness will outweigh the paycheck.
Exactly. There's so much more to life than our paycheck. I think that that's just part of a much bigger equation for fulfillment. And, we grew up in an era, especially the millennial generation and even Gen Z, hearing that you should follow your passion. But the truth of the matter is that who you are, what your natural skills are, tie to your fulfillment so much more than what you're interested in. Not all of us are meant to make our art into our work, into our career. And so I think this time of self-discovery and really reflecting on where you're gifted is so important. And I love seeing it, especially not just at SoFi, but in the workforce as a whole.
So that's great advice. Ashley, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And be sure to check out Ashley's website, ashleystahl.com.